PNC Bank.
I am so excited. We're back in Oklahoma City in the NBA Finals. They are all knotted up at 2 games apiece. It's only the 4th time this has happened since the format changed 10 years ago. The stakes, they could not be higher. And we're here to get you set on NBA Today.
These are the signature moments in the pursuit of a title. The chance to go up 3 games to 1. The other team to even it up. Way outside is good. Oh, what a gorgeous move. And inside for Joplin. Largest lead of the game.
Yeah, I relish those moments. When I was a kid shooting on my driveway, I'd count down the clock for those moments.
Gildas Alexander, handsome break, pulls back, baseline, jumper's good, clutch bomb. These finals are tied at 2 games apiece.
Game 4 didn't end the way we wanted it to. Biggest thing is you can't let one spiral into 2.
Learn the lessons from the past 4 games, and it's first team to 2 wins.
Oh, this is the best part. It is the first team to 2 wins. Aren't you glad to see Chiney Ogumake? Our senior writer, Brian Windhorst, our Hall of Famer, Mark Spears, joining us on this fine Monday. And let's set game 2 aside, maybe. We're just going to forget about that part. The rest of this series, it has been awesome. Forget about hoop heads. This is for sports fans, this series right here. Let's just take a look at how we got to this moment because it has been excellent. The Pacers, they went up 2-1 in the series despite leading for just over 20 minutes. Through 3 games. That's after stealing game 1 on Halliburton's winner and taking game 3 thanks to a bench dominant performance and then another 4th quarter comeback. If game 3 was wearing down SGA, then game 4 was preserving SGA. OKC did just that. He had 15 points in the final 5 minutes and 35 in the game to tie the series up. He became the 4th player to score 30 in 3 of his first 4 career finals games all time. And that brings us to tonight. Game 5. The winner of a series tied 2-2 has gone on to win the series 74% of the time in the finals. Here was SGA yesterday at media availability.
It's harder to win the way we played last game over the course of time. And we got to correct that if we want to come out on top. We're grateful, thankful. We did enough to get a win, but we're not trying to rely on the way we played last game. We need to be better, and we're going to be better.
You don't really get the right to flush games. You got to learn from everything and watch the film and see where you can get better in every area. So, game 4 didn't end the way we wanted it to, but the biggest thing is you can't let one spiral into 2. You know, you can't take the disappointment of that game and let it be a snowball effect.
Brian, I think we maybe came into this series, and I don't want to speak for everybody, thinking that there was a gap between these 2 teams.
I did.
And then what did we learn in game 4?
You know, I really thought the team that would win game 4, I would be sitting here saying they're going to win the series.
Yeah.
I can't say that because I really think they're really, really tight. These 2 teams are really, really close, and this city is on edge. These teams are on edge. Despite coming back with home court advantage, they don't feel super overconfident because they know how good the Pacers are. When I talk to people from the Thunder, they compliment the Pacers. When I look at the Pacers, I tell you that they have not lost back-to-back games since early March. That's over 40 games. That's half a season. Wow. And, you know, I can't say enough about how these 2 teams have proven to be dead even so far. So I really don't know how the series is going to go, and that's my ultimate compliment that I can play. And I really think coming into tonight's game, it's going to be about who can manage fatigue. This series has been about managing fatigue. It was the Pacers who won the energy game in game 3. That's how they got ahead. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Thunder won the energy game in game 4. Look at how they reduced his minutes in the first quarter. They reduced how much times he brought up the ball up the court. Strategy, fatigue, nerves, everything hinges on, individual baskets. This is what, if you're a sports fan, if you're a basketball fan, this is exactly the kind of finals you dream about.
You know, I'm apologize to his dad because I'm changing his name to SG Amazing. Like he's been amazing the whole playoffs, especially in the 4th quarter. He reminds me of baseball closer in some of these games. 15 of the last 16 points. Come on.
Yeah.
Like on the road, put the team on his back. Clearly, if they win, he's the MVP. But he's been doing this the entire playoffs, and they desperately needed him. I walked in that locker room after the game, and there was just a sense of relief, and he's the one that got him there.
And he had no ego about what needed to be done to manage that fatigue. Usually we see him play the entire first quarter. They subbed him out. That's not something we see very often, but it worked. What changed down the stretch, Chiney?
Look, in the NBA Finals, there'll be a moment where you feel like the season is on the line, your back is against the wall, and you're paging the MVP to show up. And guess what? He did exactly that. He answered that call in grand fashion. And the way he was able to be productive late, particularly in the last 5 minutes, was targeting Aaron Nesmith. There they forced a switch, and now he's just waiting. He's playing the game. You're on an island in the mid-range, and he's waiting for you to put the hand in the cookie jar and draw a foul. But this next possession shows how tremendously skilled this man is. The MVP SGA again force a switch. Here he gets the ball. You're on an island. Everyone disappears. He's playing once like he was growing up in the backyard. But this time, look at the pivot. Advanced move. Force the foul. These are the numbers that we're talking about when we say clutch performer. In Game 4, 15 points in the final 5 minutes. He was 3 for 4 versus Nesmith in that same frame. Scored 9 points against Nesmith, the most we've seen in a one-on-one scenario in that frame. So SGA, I was waiting. I was like, okay, it may not be like a dunk. It may not be a three, but it is perseverance and also consistency that has really separated him.
It's still the moments that legacies are made of. But Brian, when we were watching those clips together, it's J-Dub that's bringing the ball up the court so that Shea can set the screen so that he can pick his mismatch.
I got people that I really respect talking about how he reminded them of Scottie Pippen in this game.
Wow.
Because if you remember the way Pippen played, he was just a beast on the defensive end because of his great size, could defend all across the court, and he could bring the ball up the court, kind of be a point forward. J-Dub brought the ball up the court 25 times in this game. He'd never done that all season. They called on him to do this when they're down 2-1 on the road. And then at the end of the game, when the ball went back into Shea's hands, the reason they got Nesmith on to Shea all those times, they were running the two-man game with them. So first he was the ball handler, then he was the screen setter, and he scored 27 points along the way. That is a genius level performance. This is what the idea of this is where we're going to go with this Thunder team going forward. SGA and J-Dub. That's what they want to have, that kind of power in these kinds of type of games.
Can I tell you something? This is what's weighing so heavily on me. And when I tell you it's weighing heavily on me, it's weighing too heavily on me who I should pick in this Game 5. Are we going to get the J-Dub that showed up in Games 1 and 2? Or are we going to get the J-Dub that shows up in Games 3 and 4?
Let me say this. You know that Rick Carlisle spent the last 3 days because the thing that the Pacers do, they pressure. They pressure the ball. The reason they put J-Dub on the ball was because the pressure they put on SGA. So I would expect tonight, if they try to go back to that same strategy,
absolutely,
they will see a new level of pressure that J-Dub hadn't seen before in the series.
Speaking of Rick Carlisle, I had a chance to catch up with him. He is the ultimate underdog as a coach, right? Look at this, 40 career playoff wins as an underdog.
That's an amazing
most
stat
by any coach since 1991. Shout out Schwartz Center over there, our fantastic stats guru, including 9. 9 of them came this postseason. That's one shy of the 23 Spoelstra mark for the most in a postseason in this span. It's something that he and this team have embraced, have relished, and I spoke with him about it yesterday.
You know, there are a lot of elements that point to us kind of as a natural underdog anyway. You know, we're from a small market. We've been an underdog in most of these series that we've played in. And, you know, the whole thing speaks to the parity of the league right now, which I think is such an exciting thing for fans of the NBA and our fans in the United States. And this is the opportunity of a lifetime for our franchise and theirs. And, you know, we really embrace this moment.
I think you know that opportunity of a lifetime from a different perspective than maybe many do. You have the longest span between head coaches in NBA history, between getting back to these NBA finals. And I was thinking the other day that maybe I take it for granted sometimes. I get to come here every year. And how cool is that? Do you take that perspective to your team of you don't want to waste this because it is hard as heck to get back here?
Yeah, we talk about it. It was something that, you know, we've talked about many times really throughout the playoffs, but once you get to the finals, it's such an elevated stage. You know, you look around at everything going on here. Now you've got media in your practice for 30 minutes, and you know, the stakes are very high. We got our work cut out for us, but we're here and we're excited about the game.
It's not just Shea, the playmaker, though, right? When you're looking down the stretch of Game 4, you're seeing him setting the screen so he can hunt maybe the matchups that he wants. Watching that film back, is there something that you see?
Every problem imaginable they present. You know, there's a lot going on. I'm not going to talk about strategy. That would be foolish. But I appreciate the effort that you're making there.
Well, thank you.
But, you know, a lot of these games and a lot of these series come down to the basics.
Tyrese Halliburton, shortly after he got to this team, you said, I don't want to call plays anymore. You do it, essentially. Is this what you envision for him, an all-NBA point guard on the stage in the finals?
Yeah, I mean, that was the goal and that was the dream. And, you know, a lot has happened. It's been 3.5 years since the trade. A lot of growth has happened. As we built the roster and then we're able to acquire Pascal Siakam, it put us in a different position. And so, you know, here we are. And so proud of Tyrese. You know, he's such an authentic, humble person, you know, at the core. He's so accountable for, you know, what he does on the floor as a leader. And when things don't go well, he's always the first one to say, hey, I got to be better. I'm going to be better. And he always figures it out. And, you know, going into Game 5, we've got to be better in some areas as a team as well.
I always appreciate the time from Rick Carlisle. We had to condense that a little bit for time because he is our friend that is long-winded. But I swear at one point in that interview he turned to me and said, preach sis. And I did not have that on my Rick Carlisle bingo card. All right, Mark Spears, in Game 4, they took an L. How do they bounce back?
Well, Rick Carlisle is also a good piano player, so I think he's going to push them to play a new tune. They got to be really process-oriented, improving the margins, rebounding, possessions. If they rebound, it keeps OKC from running, right? And it allows them to run. And they got to keep OKC off the free throw line. That helps their running as well. I think the thing they know is they got to win 2 games here. Tonight's a big night. This is a scary night for them. This could be the series for them. But I think they'll bounce back.
I have a question, Malika. Did you ever mention Tricky Ricky as Rick Carlisle's nickname?
I forgot to ask him about how he feels about Tricky Ricky.
Because he's got a trick up his sleeve anytime his team is an underdog, Tricky and it's been successful. And I love that he mentioned Pascal Siakam because we talked about, you know, SGA feasting off of mismatches. Pascal has actually scored. He's 7 for 11 on SGA. So offensively, he has some opportunities considering that he's 6'8" and has a tremendous skill set with size out of most players on the floor. And people sort of sleep on that stat line. What, 28, 5, and 5? He had 5 steals in Game 4. So, yeah, overall, don't sleep on Pascal being that secondary ball handler that can score.
Normally, I would call this a novelty statistic and kind of not pay attention to it, but I've now seen 20 playoff games, and there's something about the number 111. When the Pacers score 111 points, actually 110, I think it's 111, whatever, 110, 14-0, 0-6 without. 20 games. That's a significant piece of a season. And I think what it encapsulates is what it takes for them to get to that number. That means winning the turnover battle. That means getting offensive rebounds. That means getting out in transition. So if you watch tonight, are they on pace to get 110? Are they on pace to get 109?
That'll be tough.
That's the thing. Like in Game 4, they had 35 points in the first quarter. They were on pace. Then they slowed down. Guess what? Thunder scored 111 in Game 4. Had they gotten to 111, they would have been in overtime at the least.
So if 1 is the loneliest number, 111 is the magic number here for the Indiana Pacers. All right, we got a lot to get to in this show ahead of Game 5, including the WNBA. Did Caitlin Clark just prove to the world that she could lead this Fever team to a title? Well, I was going to say Shanae's ready to make a big proclamation.
Oh, my bad. I feel like the streets know already.
And could Desmond Bane, could that trade have ripple effects through the rest of the league? Shams is here detailing what could be next for Ja Morant. We are in Oklahoma City for Game 5 of the finals tonight, but a little trade thunder rolled through the league yesterday when our Shams Charania reported that the Memphis Grizzlies traded Desmond Bane to the Orlando Magic for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, 4 unprotected first-round picks, and 1 first-round pick swap. That happened on Sunday. Thankfully, Shams is here with us now to explain what it all means going forward, because Shams, a whole lot of people, they're raising some eyebrows just a little bit at that pick. What more can you tell us about exactly how this deal got done?
4 unprotected first-round picks. So clearly by this trade, the Memphis Grizzlies had made the decision that they were going to move on from that core of Desmond Bane, Ja Morant, and Jaren Jackson Jr. And what this trade allows them to do is give them financial flexibility moving forward. They want to re-sign and do a new extension with Jaren Jackson Jr. So it allows them to clean the money up. Desmond Bane was on a maximum contract right now, but also allows them to move more toward a younger nucleus. They view Jalen Wells down there, who was in the Rookie of the Year candidacy, as a starting 2 of the future. So having players 2 through 5 being on both ends of the floor valuable to this team. But, of course, the big question then becomes, what do you do with the futures of Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr.? In the last 24 hours, I'm told emphatically that the Grizzlies intend to continue to build around those two. They want to continue to retool this roster. And they have all of these draft picks now that will allow them to be active potentially in the marketplace, whether they want to draft them or use them in trades. Talking to people in Memphis, they feel like everything they've done in the last several months is not to move off Ja Morant, but actually even more to make him feel comfortable in Memphis, particularly with the coaching staff change with Taylor Jenkins to a more fluid offensive coach in Tuomas Islo.
That was kind of going to be my question. In the bluntest terms possible, are they not moving because they don't want to or because they can't? And it seems like Shams is saying they don't want to right now.
Yes, I think that makes sense because they have made the coaching change. But the rest of the league put their eyebrow up on this trade. Well done. Because this is an arms race in the Western Conference right now.
Yeah.
There's, 12-ish teams who feel like they can, make a good run in the West next year. And they just step backward. That's not meant to be any slight towards Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but that's kind of what happened here. Now, they certainly have ammunition on their roster, but when you are a team that trades a player in his prime under control of contract for a draft, essentially a draft pick-based trade, it's just going to start those questions.
Right.
Now, they have the opportunity to show actions over words. As Shams just reported, Jaren Jackson Jr. can sign that extension. I think that's probably where we're headed, and that will lock him in. Ja Morant can sign an extension this summer as well. If that happens, then I will take the Grizzlies at their word that they are fully invested on Ja Morant. If it doesn't, the eyebrows are going to stay raised. I can't do that, Malika.
Okay, I'll keep the eyebrow raised for the Memphis side of things. On the Orlando side of things, Mark, this makes all the sense in the world. They were dead last in three-point shooting last year, and now they get one of the best three-point shooters in the league.
Yeah, as you know, I was doing a diary with Paolo at the end of the season, man. He was frustrated. He wanted more shooting, wanted more talent. Desmond Bane gives them that. And he's around the same age as these guys, so I think that their president, Jeff Weltman, feels with Paolo, Wagner, Suggs, and now Bane, that they have a core 4 guys for the future, core 4 guys that can contend. For those wondering, they didn't ask about Ja Morant. I don't think there are any conversations about Ja Morant. And the Magic feel like they're going for it. They're going to try to contend. And in order to contend and get a player like that they feel is an all-star player, you got to give up those picks, or they felt like they had to and they were willing to, but they feel like those picks with their success won't matter in the end for them.
Orlando, it seems like they want to start going for it now. And then you have Memphis, who is second in the West as late as March. It's just a little bit of a strange configuration of a season for them. All right, so that's one trade that we did see happen. Another name, though, that still hangs in the balance here is Kevin Durant. What's the latest there, Shams?
So Kevin Durant prefers to play moving forward for 3 NBA teams, either the Houston Rockets, the San Antonio Spurs, or the Miami Heat. That's the 3 teams that he would sign contract extensions with once he is traded. But for the Suns' part, the focus of their conversations have mostly been around the Miami Heat, the Houston Rockets, and the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm told. So the Timberwolves are along with a couple other teams known as wild cards potentially for Kevin Durant, but they're going to work with his business manager and partner, Rich Kleiman, on figuring out just exactly where his home could be. As far as those Minnesota Timberwolves, they've had some discussions with the Phoenix Suns, but I'm told Kevin Durant has no desire, he has no interest in playing for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So if you're the Timberwolves, how do you evaluate it? From a basketball fit, it makes plenty of sense to bring in Kevin Durant with Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
But if Kevin Durant doesn't want to be there, how do you approach that? The Suns have had an interest level in Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert. So these conversations will be fluid between now, potentially later this week, ahead of the NBA draft.
Rudy Gobert makes sense. I mean, the rim protection really struggled for the Phoenix Suns last year, but I'm hearing that they want to work with Kevin Durant and his team and Rich Kleiman, and they also want their best deals may not be the teams that Kevin Durant wants to go to. So make these concentric circles fit, Brian.
Yeah, so when Brian Gregory was named the general manager of the Suns, he famously had his press conference and said the word alignment like 20-something times.
It's like my back. I'm trying to get my back in alignment.
But is aligning with Durant's desires their most number one priority? And so here's the thing. This is where the risk profile goes. If you're the Timberwolves, for example, even if Durant says he doesn't want to be there, as Shams is accurately reporting, would you still trade for him and say, but we're going to be able to offer him the $100 million extension,
Sure.
and he can't get that necessarily in the open market next year, and we just are going to believe in that? Or are you going to lower your offer to the point where it may not be as palatable to Phoenix because you realize it's possible for a one-year rental? And does the offer come down to the point where now they start to want to work with Durant? I've been calling this the Durant triangle. You need this alignment on where Durant wants to play, how the contract works out, and something that the Suns would accept. That's going to be a hard triangle to satisfy.
KD wanted the New York Knicks. He wanted to go there. The Knicks have no interest in bringing him in, which probably makes Knicks Nation, I don't know, probably quite interested in why not. I think these three choices are by default. He definitely doesn't want to go to Minnesota, but I think there is some fear from him at Rich Kleiman that they're hoping that there's going to be respect at Kevin's age to give him what he wants rather than try to trade him like he's 31 years old, which he's not anymore. I think they're trying to get a major haul, but they're hoping that they work with him and get it done.
It makes me think of Kawhi Leonard several years back where the Raptors said, all right, we're going to take a one-year flyer. They won a championship. Obviously didn't work out long-term, but that is something that these front offices are going to need to weigh. All right, Shams, thank you so very much for your time. We really appreciate it. We know you got a busy schedule to keep here in Oklahoma City where one team will leave one win away from a title. We'll reveal the make-or-break keys to this Game 5. Hint, the play of Jalen Williams is definitely one of them, but why does he say it's actually a moment from